Hey, my name is Nadia, and I used to think that if you did everything right, if you were kind, hardworking, loyal, then life would reward you, that people would protect you, that love would be enough. I was wrong, because betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes wrapped in a familiar voice, sitting right beside you in meetings, toasting you at your wedding, laughing with you while stabbing you in the back. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who plotted revenge, but when someone you love, someone you've built a life with, betrays you in the most intimate way, and when the person helping him do it is the same woman who stood next to you as your maid of honor, something breaks inside. Not a breakdown, not tears, something shifts, like a glass wall cracking slow mo. You feel it all, the pressure, the rage, the hurt, and then suddenly clarity. Let me tell you something. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates or beg anyone to love me again. That's not who I am. Instead, I remembered who I used before the marriage, before the games, before I let people like Daniel and Melanie talk over me, diminish me, use me. And once I remembered, I stopped reacting. And I started thinking, this isn't just a story about infidelity, it's about betrayal. It's about dignity and how I took everything they tried to destroy and used it to build the weapon that took them both down. So if you've ever been lied to, if you've ever watched two people you trusted rewrite your life without permission, let me walk you through what I did. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes, silence is just the sound of strategy. It started on a Thursday, one of those busy, ordinary days that you never expect to mark the beginning of a complete unraveling. I was sitting in my office at the agent, surrounded by mood boards, coffee cups, and the low hum of brainstorming chatter. We had just landed a major tech client, and I was buried in a campaign pitch that could reshape our reputation. It felt like a high. Professionally, I was thriving. Personally, I thought I was secure, married for 6 years in a beautiful apartment and working side by side with my closest friend. What could go wrong? Daniel, my husband, had texted earlier saying he'd be working late. Melanie, nothing out of the ordinary. We were all used to the late nights, impossible deadline. The three of us were known as the power tribe of our firm. Daniel handled finances, Melanie was on the client side, and I drove the creative. People respected us, envied us, and most painfully now, I trusted us. It wasn't until I reached into my purse to grab my phone and pulled out Daniel's by mistake that everything changed. We had the same model, same case even, but the wallpaper was different. I went to unlock it, not realizing at first that it wasn't mine. That's when I saw it. A message from Melanie. It popped up like a punch in the chest. Last night was perfect. I wish we didn't have to pretend. My body went cold. I reread it again, hoping it meant something else. Maybe she was talking to someone else. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. But deep down, I knew. My hands trembled. My breath caught in my throat. I remember staring at the screen like time had stopped. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the noise of the office. I felt like I had swallowed a grenade, and any moment now, it would detonate. I confronted Daniel that night, calmly, quietly. He didn't even try to lie. Yes, he said, it just happened. Just happened? Like a slip on a wet floor, like falling into someone's bed is some kind of accident. And Melanie? I confronted her the next day. She looked me dead in the eyes, with the arrogance of someone who thought she'd won. It wasn't personal, Nadia. You were just comfortable. He needed more. Comfortable. That word hit me harder than anything. They didn't just take my trust. They reduced me to background noise. And then they expected me to carry on like nothing had happened. Work with her. Sit through meetings. Smile. I didn't cry in front of them. I didn't scream. I smiled and made a decision. If they wanted to play games in secret, I'd end the game in public. People talk about heartbreak like it's a clean wound, sharp, deep, and fast. But what I felt wasn't clean at all. It was messy, lingering, like poison slowly into my skin, numbing everything it touched. The betrayal wasn't just, it was professional, social, psychological. I had been gutted from two angles, the man I shared my bed with and the woman I called my best friend. The days that followed were brutal in their silence. No big dramatic explosions, no comfort from friends, because I didn't tell anyone yet. It's funny, really. I thought I'd cry to my sister, lean on coworkers, maybe even take time off work. But I couldn't. I was too stunned, too proud, too embarrassed. And the worst part, I still had to sit across from Melanie at meetings, still had to hear her voice pitching my ideas like they were hers, still had to walk into Daniel's cold shared apartment every night and pretend I wasn't being suffocated. I slept in the guest room. He barely said a word. Some days, I'd stand in the shower long after the water turned cold, just staring at the tile, wondering how everything could fall apart so quietly, how two people could break me so thoroughly without even raising their voices. At work, the office buzzed as usual, but I noticed things I hadn't before. Melanie taking credit for team effort, whispers when I left the emails where my name was missing from threads I should have been included on. And the thought hit me, this wasn't just a personal betrayal. Melanie had been undermining me professionally. I started doubting everything. Was I ever respected? Was Daniel helping her, even financially? Was I the fool this whole time? I felt like a ghost in my own life, smiling for optics, nodding through meetings, laughing politely at inside jokes I no longer found funny. I'd lie awake at night replaying her words. You were just comfortable. Like I was a worn-out sweater. Like I was disposable. That hurt more than the affair. But somewhere in that darkness, beneath the humiliation, the numbness, the disbelief, I felt something else waking up inside me. Not rage, not yet, but clarity. I started journaling again. Late at night, thoughts, timelines, inconsistent. I began collecting not just emotion, but facts. I found myself tracing conversations, archiving emails, noticing how Melanie was positioning herself for a major promotion. And just like that, my pain began to morph into purpose. I wasn't going to let her win. Not in love, not in career, not in reputation. They thought I'd be too heartbroken to fight. They didn't know they'd just created a woman with nothing to lose. Something shifted inside me the moment I stopped crying. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. I didn't post cryptic messages or look for sympathy. Instead, I watched. I observed. I planned. They thought I was broken, but I was just quiet. Melanie strutted through the office like nothing happened, still charming clients, still joking with the team, still delivering her polished presentations with that overly rehearsed enthusiasm that made people think she was brilliant. And Daniel, he barely tried to fix anything. He acted like he had done me a favor, like maybe now I could focus on my real self or some garbage about finding happiness elsewhere. But I wasn't interested in happiness. Not yet. What I wanted was the truth. And I wanted the truth to matter. So I started documenting everything. I went back through project files, emails, Slack threads, every conversation and campaign we'd worked on together. I noticed patterns, times when Melanie would suddenly take over a project when I was out sick, emails where she misquoted costs to inflate budget, costs that conveniently funneled money into vendor accounts linked to her cousin's marketing firm, meetings where she'd restate my ideas and pitch them as her own, only slightly reworded, just enough to make it seem fresh. At first, I thought it might just be office politics, but the deeper I dug, the more I saw it. She was building her career on stolen work, falsified figures, and relationships she manipulated like chess pieces. I began keeping a file, clean, time-stamped, professional. No emotions, just evidence. Client invoices, budget reports, comparison decks, even a voice memo when I caught her whispering things she shouldn't have said with earshot. I wasn't spying, I was listening, because she had gotten careless. The moment that confirmed everything, an email she meant to send to Daniel, but she sent it to me. It said, "Once I make partner, we'll finally be untouchable. Nadia's too wrapped up in her pride to stop me." That was it. The mask was off. She wasn't just after Daniel. She wanted everything. My job, credibility, my position in the company I helped build. That night, I stared at that email like it was signal flare, and I smiled because I realized something powerful. You don't have to fight loudly to win. Sometimes, the most dangerous woman in the room is the one who says nothing at all until it's time. So I compiled my evidence, quietly, carefully, and I waited for the right moment to, not just to defend myself, but to make sure she'd never be able to do this to anyone else again. I didn't need an audience. I didn't want chaos or screaming or some dramatic confrontation that would make me look unstable. That's not how people like Melanie fall. They don't trip over drama. They get caught in their own web when it's pulled apart, piece by piece, with precision. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The company was preparing for its annual performance review, a big formal affair where department heads presented yearly outcomes, strategic initiatives, and promotion. Melanie had been positioning herself for a partnership role for months, greasing the right palm, scheduling mentorship coffee, and claiming credit for everything remotely successful. She thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. I scheduled a private meeting with our CEO 2 days before the review. Just the two of us. No warning. I brought a folder, simple, black, organized like a legal brief. Inside it was everything I had been collecting over the past month. I didn't walk in angry or emotional. I walked in calm, focused, and I told the truth. I laid out the inflated vendor contracts, showed the emails where she modified numbers to make campaigns look more profitable than they were, highlighted projects she claimed to lead that had been built entirely by others, sometimes by me, sometimes by junior staff she had thrown under the bus. At first, he was skeptical. Melanie was beloved, but then I showed him her accidental email to me. That changed everything. The color drained from his face as he read her gloating about how I was too proud to see the setup, how she would rise above me because I played nice while she played smart. But the smartest play was staying silent long enough to let her bury herself. The CEO didn't say much, just nodded slowly and told me he appreciated my discretion, that he needed time to verify the data. I walked out of that room knowing one thing: she wasn't getting that promotion. The annual review came. Everyone was there: the board, executive, all the partners. Melanie walked in wearing a bright red dress like she was already celebrating. She gave her presentation, slick, confident, full of buzzwords and self-congratulation. And then the CEO stood up. "I want to thank Melanie for her contributions," he said, his voice even. "But before we move forward on any promotion decision, we've uncovered some discrepancies that require internal review." You could hear a pin drop. Her face went pale. Her smile faded. She glanced around, confused, panicked, and that's when she looked at me. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held her gaze. She knew. Within a week, she was on administrative leave. 2 weeks later, she was gone, quietly. No fanfare, no goodbye party. And Daniel? I handed him the divorce papers the night before her dismissal. He asked if we could talk. I told him we already had. He just wasn't listening when it mattered. When it was all over, I didn't feel the sudden rush of victory I thought I might. There was no dramatic music playing in the background, no parade, no applause, just silence. A different kind of silence than before, not the numb, aching stillness of betrayal. This was quieter, cleaner, free. Melanie was gone. Daniel, too. And for the first time in a I had space to breathe, to think, to rebuild, not from wreckage, but from truth. People at work noticed the shift. Some whispered, some asked questions, but most respected the fact that I hadn't caused a scene, that I handled something deeply personal and professionally catastrophic with a level of control that surprised even me. And honestly, that was the real revenge. I didn't just survive the betrayal, I thrived beyond it. I got promoted 3 months later, on my own merits, not through manipulation or alliances. The same clients Melanie tried to charm, they stayed with me. I treated them with honesty, not spin. Daniel tried to reach out a few times after the divorce was finalized. Little texts. "Hope you're okay. I still care about you. We were good once." But I never replied. He made his choice, and I made mine. There's something empowering about no longer needing closure from the people who hurt you. You realize that you are the closure. You're the final chapter. You're the proof that their betrayal didn't define you. Your response. I began sleeping again, really sleeping. No more staring at the ceiling, no more tightness in my chest. I took a trip alone for the first time in years. Just me, a journal, and a little coastal town where nobody knew who I was. I sat by the ocean, wrote my story out from beginning to end, and let the waves carry away the last remnants of shame I didn't deserve to carry. And as I watched the water pull back into itself, I realized something. I didn't need revenge to feel powerful. I just needed to reclaim what was mine, my truth, my name, my peace. That's the thing about betrayal. It tries to make you small, but if you stay steady, if you hold your dignity and move with intention, it can become the fuel that propels you to the life you were meant to build all along. Today, I lead the creative department with a team that respects me. I mentor younger women coming into teaching them not just about branding and strategy, but about self-worth, about watching for red flags, about knowing when to be kind and when to be silent and sharp. Melanie thought she was ending my story. Daniel thought I'd beg to be loved again. Instead, I rewrote everything. And I made sure this time I was the one holding the pen. So if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, someone you never imagined would hurt you, remember this. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to strike back to win. You just have to stand still long enough to let the truth catch up. And when it does, let it speak louder than you ever could. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is living so well, they don't even recognize the version of you they tried to break.